Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming out today. Like I said, my name is Marc Vecchio. I'm a staff solution manager with Supermicro. I'm going to walk through some industry trends that we've seen out there. I'm going to hand it over to Manish here. He's going to talk about a lot of the cool things that NVIDIA does, and then going to come back to me for a little more industry dive, and then talk about some boxes as well. Let's see, does this work? All right. Okay, so starting off with a survey. We recently did a poll. We went to 150 retail executives in North America, UK, and the EU space. And we asked them, what are you doing with retail? Are you doing anything? Is it going well? Is it not going well? Do you have plans to expand? That kind of stuff. And, you know, typical survey, there's a lot of things in there that, okay, that made sense. A lot of things that surprised us, some things that didn't. So I'll start with the things that surprised us. So out of the respondents, the 150 respondents, we found that for retail operations, 79% are going to be spending the same, if not more, for AI infrastructure projects next year. So statistically, you know, pretty big number, 79%. Out of them, 75% are spending that not on one front or back of the house, they're spending on both. So out of the 80% that are spending the same, if not more next year, they're spending it on front and back of house use cases. So across their entire organization, which is interesting. 81% are planning to spend the same, if not more, to improve customer interactions. So again, a really high number there, 81% big number. But I think the important number I'm going to show you is the smallest number, and it's 0. 0% of respondents are planning to spend less next year on AI initiatives. 0. Out of 150 retailers across 2 continents, all kinds of different retailers, none are spending less on AI. That number is big. When you consider retail operates on very thin margins, they're not going to go after projects or initiatives that don't have an ROI. They're not seeing benefit from. They don't have time for that. That's not going to happen. So when I see that 0% are saying they're going to spend less, that tells me that AI is now here. It's not a fanciful use case. It's not a novelty. This is part of normal business operations. Is AI going to replace jobs, people's jobs? No. But if you're not using AI in your job, are you going to get replaced? Possibly. So a little deep dive into that RO, or I call RO AI, is almost 80% have seen some level of cost savings from implementing their AI project. 0%, another 0, saw no benefit from it. This ties into the first slide. Again, retailers are not going to spend money on these projects if they're not a cost benefit to it. So that says exactly what the last slide said. The other number on here is 22% weren't sure. Okay, a little odd if you start to think about it. Maybe they have bad project management. But I think part of it is that some of the AI use cases or deployments are more experiential. It's harder to draw a line to that RO, to the RO AI on that, right? Because it's not like loss prevention. My shrink was X this time last year, now it's Y, it's less. Here's the delta, okay, that's real dollars saved. In this case, experiential could be a chatbot, it could be a digital concierge, it could be a product recommender, it could be things that it's hard to tie a line to, okay, this actually saved us X amount of dollars. So that 22%, I don't think that's discouraging. I think that's right in line with experiential AI as well. So diving a little deeper into what those customer actions are, majority of that spend or majority of the respondents, they're using that to improve the customer's shopping experience. So say for an example of an e-commerce site, how do I turn a product that's meant to be one-to-many to feel like a one-to-one interaction with a customer? How do I make that personalized for them? Well, we use AI. We have shopping recommenders. We have product recommenders, shopping advisors, recommendation engines and whatnot that can make the experience feel personal. We can look at their history. We can say, okay, typically this customer likes this kind of product, maybe tie it into the time of year, previous choices, and you can start making customized recommendations where they feel like it's a one-to-one. Because you're in that fight for your customers' loyalty that they buy from you today, they buy from you tomorrow, they come back next week, and they tell their friends about it. So using AI to make that customized experience is where we see a lot of companies going with that. Omnichannel is another big one, right? Tying in that online experience to the in-store, different payment methods, making everything seamless, stocking, maybe it's not available online, you can go pick it up in the store, vice versa. Having that omni-channel experience is important. Another one that's on here was a little surprising was in-store navigation. What we're seeing is a resurgence of people wanting to go to stores again. It's becoming cool to go to the mall again. So I think what we're seeing is that people are trying to tie in what the experience is online. Hey, we noticed you have this product, you haven't purchased it. It's located in your local store. If you want to go check it out, go in this store. Here's some directions how to find it right away in the store. You don't have to walk around as much. So in-store navigation popped up there at 17%, which I thought was interesting. So common retail challenges, and there are a lot of them, but probably the most common we see is product shrinkage. As far as AI, I should say that AI can help solve. Product shrinkage is a big right now. I would say at the edge, it's the most deployed use case for AI at the moment. Being able to turn dumb cameras into smart cameras, running AI algorithms on them, and helping to reduce shrinkage, that's a big use case right now for AI. A lot of retailers are doing that. Customer experience, again, like I talked about before, making that one-to-many feel like a one-to-one, getting people to feel it's a personal experience, wanting to come back. And then also, you have the other side of the house. You have logistics, supply chain, warehouses, distribution center, fulfillment centers. All that's going to come under logistics, where AI using generative AI or agentic AI can help increase your operational efficiencies. Again, a direct correlation to return on AI on that as well. There's many more. Those are just kind of like the top ones I went with. But now I'm going to hand over to Manish. He's going to talk about all the cool things that NVIDIA does, and then I'll come back after he's done, talk a little bit more about industry trends and talk about Supermicro a bit.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it. Good afternoon, everybody. Who here's been reading the news about AI in Saudi Arabia? $500 billion of investments, right? $500 billion. OpenAI through SoftBank, again, another $500 billion worth of investment. These are people who are a lot smarter than I am, and there's a reason they're putting a lot of this money in it. And it's about generating tokens, it's about generating intelligence, it's about basically turning a company into an AI company. Every company is going to have to be an AI company. Let me just. So NVIDIA, where do we fit in, right? We are not just a GPU company. What we are is an AI, full stack AI company now. Used to be, hey, hardware, give me, a couple of cards and I'll mine Bitcoin. Not anymore. We put everything together, we work with partners like Supermicro, and we go to market with that. Again, cloud partners, organizations, huge ecosystem of partners that we have. This is what it looks like from a full stack, what NVIDIA actually does. It's not just providing the hardware, it's providing the software that goes on top of it, the acceleration libraries and frameworks for accelerated computing, which is, if I have a data center, which has $100 million worth of equipment, and if I can consolidate all that into, say, a $10 million with GPU-enabled equipment, this is the way to go. So that's the accelerated libraries that we're talking about. And then we have frameworks, as you see, NVIDIA AI frameworks, and then we have Omniverse, which is effectively a simulation software. And then you have application frameworks there. We'll go into details a little bit. So where did we start, right? We started with a software factory. We were going to provide APIs, we were going to provide software, and then we moved to AI factories, which is, you had generative AI come up. You had token generation. You have these new technologies called transformers. You had attention, which was a very important, it was a paradigm shift in the way we were doing AI. And Google came up with that transformer architecture, and things changed completely. This is why AI Factory came into pictures. Where are we going with this? Everything's going to have an AI component to it. Like, look at the cars over there. That's a $100 trillion market. That's huge. So let me just give you an example of why this is really important. Like, Jensen and I was there too with the board of Fortune 1 company. Fortune 1, okay? So you guess who that is. The question was, you're no longer a retailer. You are effectively a matchmaker of a consumer product company and a bunch of consumers. And how do you do that? What's your front-end strategy and what's your back-end strategy? and therefore you have to be an AI company across all of the things you do. So that was the conclusion that, hey, if you're going to be a retailer, you're not just a retailer, you're a retailer with AI. So next generation, what does AI look like? Initially, it was just store analytics, perception AI, which is basically looking for patterns in your data. And then we came to generative AI, which is, hey, marketing, LLMs, you guys know what LLMs are, right? Okay, so these are large language models. So that's where we came to catalog enrichment. We came with with marketing copy. All of that stuff was being generated. Then we said, hey, let's move to where can we do this to have virtual employees now? So you have shopping assistants. In fact, Walmart today put out the news that they have a shopping assistant that they released, right? So what happens is your HR now, going forward, is not going to be looking at just employees. They're going to be virtual employees and physical employees. So it's a radical change in the way we think about business and we do business. That's the agentic stuff we talked about, and of course the next phase of that is physical AI, which is robotics. I know this sounds a little far-fetched right now from a robotics perspective, but look at it. Google's putting a lot of money in it. You've got Meta who's putting a lot of money in it. You've got Amazon's putting a lot of money in it. It's not just warehouse robots. It's actually humanoids. Meta is just released something which says, hey, we're going to create humanoid companions. So you can send your humanoid to do your shopping for you. So that's what's coming down the pipeline. So again, when you look at, hey, where's this money going to go? Where's this $500 billion going to go, right? A lot of the people are, hey, okay, so a lot of people say, hey, this is going to cost us a lot of jobs. That's not true. You're not going to lose your job to AI. You're going to lose your job to a person who uses AI. So that's a huge critical difference there. And in fact, I tell my kids too that, hey, start learning AI because this is what the future looks like. So you have Office co-pilots, you have social media, AI content creation, all of that, drug discovery, for instance. I mean, if you've thought about what Google did with AlphaFold, and it practically went and modeled about 200 million pairs of proteins. And it's such, and this is all using AI. So stuff that we didn't think could be done is now done. And it's incredible. Again, on the retail side of the house, come to where are we seeing adoption? So we're seeing adoption in intelligent stores, supply chain, which comes to not just supply chain, but it's transportation, it's replenishment, it's demand forecasting, all of that, right? We're using a lot of AI. Omni-channel management, which is fulfilling from stores, mixed fulfilling centers, all of that, we're seeing a lot of adoption for AI in that. And then again, intelligent QSRs, you've seen at McDonald's and other places that you go order off a kiosk and it provides you things. So this is just from a customer experience perspective. If you look at retail, effectively what you're presenting is a decent price. You have a good customer experience. You have a decent assortment that's available for your customers. And then you have trust with the customers. You got to execute on all those four pillars in order to bring AI and effectively to your customers. So one thing you notice in this is when you talk about AI, it's not just AI in form of text. They're talking about AI in terms of speech, AI in terms of images, AI in terms of videos, right? So it's multimodal AI. That's the future that we're heading towards. Again, consumer products, there's a whole bunch of use cases that are running by consumer products. One of the biggest challenges that consumer product companies have is that they lack the data because that's sitting behind retailers. And they have to either buy that from somebody else or they have to generate that. So they are using a lot of that stuff, a lot of the data that they get from retailers especially, and their manufacturing, and they are using AI to drive all of this. On the omni-channel side of the house, I'm working very closely with people who are doing something called a unified search. Meaning when you're searching for a product, you can just, it'll go search for a product, or you can just ask it a question in the same breath. Hey, I'm moving, I'm going to Alaska for holidays. Can you just give me what I need to buy for clothes? And that will come up with the recommendations. And not only that, you also have what's known as retail media networks. So people are actually coming in and monetizing their data with the sponsored ads, like Amazon does, right? So that's a huge thing. Stores, again, asset protection is the low-hanging fruit, right? Everybody's doing video summarization, looking at falls, looking at, people stealing stuff, So that's happening. Again, associate advisors, a lot of people are investing in that because it's effectively what it does is they're using AI to tell the associate what's your next best task that you need to execute on. So now you have improved productivity across your organization as well. Retail media platform I just referred to. And on the QSR side, we already talked about it. I mean, it's not my forte there, but we've all been to McDonald's and ordered off the kiosk, right? So that's basically it. And all of these are tied together by the supply chain part, right? Supply chain part is huge as far as retail is concerned, because you got to get the right product at the right time, at the right price, to the right customer. The one thing that you see, somebody comes up with tariffs, and I know Greg's going to cover that in detail, but you come up with tariffs and you don't know what to do, that's not how AI works. You should have simulated all of this, including long tail events way back in the day, said, okay, if this happens, here are my alternate suppliers. Here's my supply chain is flexible, and I can turn on a dime. So that's the stuff that we'll be looking at. Again, some of the intelligent stores, how they work, store analytics, employee theft, a whole bunch of stuff. So you're already familiar with most of this stuff. But one thing that I will tell you is a lot of the folks who are at, you've got Amazon, the behemoth out there, right, which is mostly, it's a all delivery service. And then you have, on the other hand, you have somebody like Walmart, which has a bunch of stores and overhead associated with those stores. So what do you do with that, right? So you turn those stores into a mixed fulfillment center. Every store of yours is a fulfillment center. So that's how the omni-channel meets together, right? You have the online, you have the pickup, you have curbside delivery, or you have home delivery. So all of this is tied together for that retail experience. Again, loss prevention, that's like I said, it's one of the big things because it's all video based. And we have, we work with, it says NVIDIA Metropolis over there. These are our frameworks that we provide. Again, enterprise perceptive AI, we just went through some of this. Generative AI, which is generating answers, and agentic AI. Agentic AI, like I talked about, is actually having virtual employees who go do things for you. They can plan, they can make decisions, they have memory, all of that stuff, and they can talk to other agents. Okay, what we do is we provide all of these building blocks. So like I said, it's not just a hardware company, it's a full stack company which enables you to have AI. So it's an AI company in detail, actually. Digital commerce, you've already seen. Catalog enrichment, ads. Ads is huge, like I said, because that's a revenue stream. A lot of the retailers and consumer companies right now are trying to monetize their data. And this is how they're doing. That's the data cycle that they're using. This is, again, something that we develop. By the way, we don't just develop products, right? What we do is we have blueprints. We'll provide those to you. Go develop on your own. Work with our great partners like Supermicro to kind of implement those. So that's basically what we work on. Generative AI must be multimodal. We just talked about that. WPP L'Oreal. This is a great partnership that we have from a CPG perspective. And AI factories, that's another thing, is everybody wants to own their data. They want to own their insights. They want to be able to provide this to their entire ecosystem. And that's one of the things that people are working on. Everywhere I go, we're talking about AI factory. And AI factory, like we work very closely with Supermicro. They provide the hardware. we work with them. We provide the tools on top of that. So that's something everybody should be looking at today is what does an AI factory look like for my business? Again, full stack, I'll skip this. This is another thing, like I said, we don't sell directly anything. We count on very reliable partners. So anything you buy from Supermicro is vetted by us. It has a reference architecture associated with it. So it's going to work. And what we do is we provide blueprints. So if you want to run your own customer service, if you want to run your own chatbots, you can implement those on your own. Just go to our build.nvidia.com and there you are. And this is for video summarization, one of the blueprints. Again, OpenUSD. OpenUSD is effectively getting a lot of the, it's associated with Omniverse. It's about physical, how do you represent physical spaces?
Build me a
Thank you for your time. I don't want to go into robotics, but I highly recommend that if you look, because this is a little bit further away, I recommend you guys look at robotics from an AMR perspective, with automated robots that you can use in your factories, on your stores, or in your distribution centers. This is coming. So that's pretty much it. Thank you. I'll be back there if you have any questions for me. Thanks.
Okay. We just saw a lot of cool stuff that NVIDIA enables via their GPU for AI acceleration, their building blocks, their NIMs, all that kind of stuff, which is amazing. But it's not the whole solution because you need to run it somewhere. And what we see, again, coming back to retail is, we see a lot of that on the edge. Now, there's two ways to, we look at deployments. There's edge and there's data center. Data center being your traditional big building, lots of cooling capacity, big server racks, that kind of thing. And then you have the edge, which is pretty much the opposite. Edge is a lot of varied conditions. Think of the back of a quick service restaurant, the back of a retail location. The environments couldn't be any different. You go from nice, cool, big space to confined, wide temperatures, constrained space kind of thing. So that's going to affect the kind of equipment that you're going to put out there to deploy. So based off that, what are the challenges of deploying? So back to my survey again. So 66% of executives reported they had encountered performance limitations with their current hardware working on AI. Now, before, remember, I was talking about the survey results. Some things are surprises, some things are not. This falls under the category of not a surprise. Again, retailers operate on very thin margins, which means hardware refreshes happen when they have to. So what we have here is people trying to take hardware that wasn't meant for AI and trying to run AI workloads on it. It's not going to work. You need newer hardware to handle the processors and the accelerators that are going to do that kind of work. So yeah, 66% said it failed, and surprise, surprise, over half said they're going to make spending on new hardware a priority for the coming year. So hardware refreshes for the future year to accommodate all the AI success that they've had to date. Now, when it comes to managing that infrastructure, here's the common pain points that we see trying to struggle: edge deployments, network latency, scalability, security, data storage, on and on. I'm going to read them all for you. But these are all the common problems when you try and deploy workloads at the edge. If you think about it, not talking like a couple branch offices. If you're a retailer, you're, again, a QSR or anything like that, you could have thousands, tens of thousands of locations. That's a lot of dispersed equipment around. So you need to be able to efficiently manage that. And that's where Supermicro comes in. So Supermicro, our edge servers, I like to say, grew up in the telco world where you needed a lot of horsepower and a small footprint in ruggedized forms. That's where we've taken those servers, and it's very applicable to retail and edge deployments because it's very similar situations. We have a very comprehensive portfolio of AI servers. We build everything ourselves. We're self-designed. We build everything. We design and build ourselves. For the US, we are manufactured in the US. We build everything in San Jose, California. So that tariff conversation that was going around, we're actually made in the USA already. Yeah. But because we design everything ourselves, we have a wide variety of products. And what I like to say is that with our systems, we can right size it. And I don't just mean the physical fit, I mean the value. Where our competitors may need to take a large server and squeeze it into a medium use case, or a medium server into a small use case, so on and so on. We have the right system for the right use case, so we're hitting the right value. Because again, when you talk about deployment for retailers, it's not a couple boxes, thousands, tens of thousands of boxes are deployed. So that per unit price is critical to maintain that margin, make sure that project has the right ROI. The per unit price has to be right. You have to have that right value. And that's where really, really we excel very well. So a lot of variable ways to mount it. It can go on a shelf, it can go on top of a filing cabinet, it can go up on a wall, anything but a data center rack, because we know that's not what's out there. And like I said, that lets you have a right size system for your deployments. So I'm just going to run through a couple of our boxes. I'm not going to go into details, just so you get an idea. These are two smaller boxes. The one on the left is a little tabletop box. Again, can go on top of a filing cabinet on a shelf. Has enterprise processor. It also has the room for a GPU. So you can do basic AI workloads on that small box to sit on top of that table, no problem. The box next to it, which is actually out in the hallway, is our AI box PC. It's got a lot of different names. None of them are great. This guy is an enterprise-grade processor, and it can hold a full-size GPU for AI workloads. We've seen this used in retail. We did a deployment for a Midwest convenience chain, convenience and fuel. They had 25 locations. They put 2 of these per location, so 5,000 boxes went out for store operations, but they're not doing AI. But they have the foresight to think, one day we're going to do AI.
Right.
I don't want to throw out these boxes I just hung up on the wall in 2,500 locations.
Yep.
We want systems that are AI friendly.
That's the conversation I'm having now.
Yeah, all the orders where it went from very small boxes just to do store operations are becoming that conversation. Hey, we're doing store operations, but we're pretty sure we're going to do this AI thing.
Yeah.
I mean, again, going back to one of the first slides I talked about, 80% of retailers are investing the same, if not more, in retail, in AI. So everyone knows it's coming.
Yeah.
Retail's very much keeping up with the Joneses, and they realize that I'm going to have to do it too. I don't want to rip and replace. So that's a great system for that. Jump into these. These are more like your traditional looking data center systems, but these are shorter, much smaller, where a data center server is going to be over 38 to 42 inches deep. These are 17, 16, we even one that's 9.8 inches. So again, able to fit the versatile deployments that Edge requires. Don't need a data center rack. You can hang them on a wall, put them in a 2-post rack, that kind of thing. Again, enterprise-grade processors. And now we're starting to talk about you can put multiple GPUs into these systems for Edge AI acceleration. Last 2 are the bigger servers. The one on the left is probably the last size I would say maybe goes at the edge. It can hold, again, multiple of the largest GPUs that NVIDIA offers. And then our guy on the right here, I'll spend a little time on. This is our near edge data center system. So this is a big boy. This is also out on the table out there. This can hold 8 of the largest GPUs that NVIDIA makes. Now, you wouldn't put this in a retail location, but we have to think for retail, it's not just edge servers and locations, it's also e-commerce. So if I'm running a chatbot, if I'm running a product recommendation engine, if I'm doing a shopping assistant, that has to run within my data center.
Correct.
This is a great system to do it with. So Edge, Edge from storefront to near edge data center. Supermicro has boxes that can handle all those things. So again, like I was saying, retail opportunities, it's not onesies, twosies. It's going to be hundreds, if not thousands of boxes that are going out. So everything counts. That right size, that right fit is very critical to a successful deployment. Like I said, retail, different than a data center deployment. You have to take the environmental conditions to account. You got to have reliable systems. Again, Supermicro, we manufacture everything ourselves, so we have a very high quality control. We have systems that are guaranteed for 5-7 years of use. Again, right here in the USA. And the last part is, example of today, we have a very strong relationship with our industry partners like NVIDIA. We also work with a lot of different software providers, integrators, distributors, that kind of thing, because in the end, sure, I make a box. NVIDIA makes an acceleration card and a software stack that goes with it, but that's not a solution. Retailers don't want a box and a card. They want a total solution. They need someone who's going to write the software, it's going to run on this hardware. They need someone who's going to do the logistics, deploy it in the stores, and then do that day 2 maintenance. These are all ecosystem partners that we have that can help you guys do AI deployments at the edge, at your data center, wherever it may be. Don't look at us as just hardware manufacturers with a software stack.
Correct.
No, we're a whole ecosystem.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So just one point I'd like to make.
Sure.
When you think in terms of retail, think about the different levels that you're looking at. You're looking at the store, which is the edge level. you're going to provide, say he walks in with his phone and I'm going to send him a coupon on his phone as soon as he comes into the store. That inferencing that needs to be done is at the edge. Then you have the metro level, which is mostly transportation, distribution. So that's that level that you're going to be a distribution center level. And then you have the data that needs to be sent back to the home office. So Supermicro helps you with all three of those levels.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a good point where you process that data.
Yeah.
So when we talk about video surveillance, say for security, loss prevention,
Yeah.
very common use case
Exactly.
in retail, you don't want to have to take that video and pipe it up to the internet.
Correct.
Larger store, even a medium-sized store, you could have hundreds of high-definition video feeds. You try and put that all up to date, you're going to use a lot of bandwidth. And if you're using cloud resources to process that, you're going to have a hefty AWS bill at the end of the month. So what we're really seeing for security is that you want to process those workloads at the edge. So you need smaller systems that can have the GPUs, but still be rugged enough to be deployed at the edge. So very, very common use case when you hear loss prevention in the store. They're running that in the store. There's AI acceleration happening in the store.
Thank you.